Welcome everyone to a new series I'm calling Copper Drop, and today's edition is... We're going to be reviewing that game out of 5 different criteria: story, gameplay, sound, graphics, and replayability. Not only that, we're doing a scale from 1 to 10, and that scale is 1 being unplayable and 10 being near perfect, and we can fill in the gaps as we go. You should see it on screen what it is. First up is the storytelling. From how I played the game, it was easy to follow most of the time, and it was a decent premise of the story. The lore was great to learn, and the world was just phenomenal to learn about how everything works together and how the characters interact. And I gotta say, the story had a very strong start, and it hooked me instantly. Unfortunately, that's where all the good stuff ends with the story. Now I'm gonna talk about some of the cons of the story. First up is I unironically felt that the story fell off near the end because of all the other stuff that was happening. It's still a good story and all that, but I personally think they could have done better. The last negative thing about the story is there's a certain part in the game where a certain bubble keeps popping up. They were annoying. With that being said, I have to give the storytelling a 6 out of 10.
No, yes.
I won't lie, the combat was kind of weird when it first started, and I didn't enjoy it that much, but after getting used to it, it was more entertaining than what I originally thought. The puzzles that they had were good, but mostly were too easy, except for very 2 specific moments that I know for a fact that had just a random spike in difficulty, but other than that, they were fun to solve. There's an option that does a little twist in combat where you could just not defeat them. It's cool twist on combat instead of just running, killing, and that's it. Anyways, that's about all for the pros. Let's go to the cons now. The interactive cutscenes where you have to dodge things is fun when it first started, and it was interesting, but after that first time, I just found them annoying to do because they just kept kind of reusing the idea. The last gripe was that the shops were too far and in between of the areas, but I was still able to almost beat the final boss of the game with no healing items, so it still is good, but they could have done better. For the gameplay, I have to give the game a 7 out of 10. When the music hit just right, it was perfect. There's a reason why, if you can tell, I'm using it like the soundtrack in the background. The damage sound effects for the player and enemies were good. They were better than most games I played in this type of genre. The blast / laser beam sounds were fantastic. There's only one real bad side about the sound / music, and that was the sound that they used during them talking in normal conversation, the weird tech sound. I don't know how to put it, but it was interesting at first, but it got really repetitive. Anyways, the sound and music rating that I have to give it is an 8 out of 10. I won't lie, compared to most newer games, the design of the characters are great and they match what they were supposed to be. The visuals from the clothing to how the characters presented themselves fitted with the area that they were in, and it was perfect. The weapons they used look fantastic, especially towards a certain area at the end. Won't spoil it, but it looked amazing. The only gripe that I have is that weapons might look amazing, but the magic were just not it, and it looked kind of out of place compared to the other things. But that's just a small gripe. Anyways, the graphics / visuals rating I have to give it is an 8 out of 10. Replaying would be fun to do with the different playthroughs that the game offers. If I had time personally, I would do at least maybe 1 or 2 runs through the game, but no more than 2. And as always, replaying would take a little bit too much time to do, but if you have the willpower to do it, I would say go ahead and do it. For the last rating, which is replayability, I have to give it a 7 out of 10. Now So here we are at the final rating after we add everything up. If we take the storytelling 6 out of 10, add it with the gameplay 7 out of 10, and the sound of music 8 out of 10, with the graphics and visuals rating 8 out of 10, and add it with the replayability, which is 7 out of 10, it ends up being 36 out of 50, which then equals 72%, which in the end gives it a C tier ranking. Do I think that it needs to be a must-have? No, but if you want a decent game, go on and pick it up. Anyways, just remember that this is my personal rating. If it doesn't match yours, that's all fine and dandy. Anyways, thanks for taking the time to watch the full video. Have a good one. Peace.